Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, your co-host, Shaq. We're going to be talking UFC Fight Island 4, Holm versus Irene Aldana. And Shaq, it's going down this Saturday night in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. You already know the deal. If Irene Aldana gets past the former champion, she's going to be next for Amanda the Goat Nunes.
Yeah, 100%, man. She's coming off that big upset against Ketlin Vieira. You know, there's been a lot of hot takes about that fight. Some people say it was a fluke. Some people say that Irene Aldana's leveling up. So I'm excited to see what really goes down this Saturday night. Holm, you know, she's like the Frankie Edgar of the female division.
Yeah, no doubt about it. It's funny because it's like everyone will make the jokes about, Holly Holm getting more title shots. Oh, look, Holly Holm got another title shot. But it's like only a certain level of fighters beat her, and it's usually champions or number one contenders. So this is actually going to really let us know exactly where Irene Aldana stands. And I feel like if Irene Aldana would have taken this fight a year or two ago, she would have a less likely chance of passing this test. But I feel like now she's really paid her dues. So if she's ever going to win against a former champion, it's got to be Saturday night, Shaq. Well, Shaq, let's break down this whole card start to finish, because first up in the lightweight division, we got a matchup between Jessin Ayari, who's 16-5, and Luigi Vandermini is 8-1. Currently, they got Jessin Ayari minus 120. The comeback on Luigi Vandermini is plus 100. I mean, Shaq, look, we haven't seen either of these guys in 2 years, so I'm not really sure what to expect, but I'll say this, like, Jessin Ayari's kind of got a bit of a point fighting style from what we've seen. You know, he went up there against Darren Till. He fought tough. Look, he got dropped like 4 or 5 times, and he didn't go out unconscious, so I got to give him credit for that. And then his next fight with Stevie Ray, a lot of people thought he got robbed. I mean, I personally disagree. I thought Stevie Ray edged out the fight, but I mean, you know, the judges got it right in my opinion. I know people are going to disagree with that. It is what it is. Now, as far as this matchup is concerned, out of the two, even though Luigi Vandermini, officially got finished in his debut, like, dude, he was in there with Elizeu Zaleski, and he took Elizeu's back and almost choked him out. So that right there is more impressive to me than, barely, than almost winning a split against Stevie Ray. So for that reason, I'm going to pick Luigi Vandermini, but it's not a confident pick because I don't know what to expect from either guy. But the one moment that he had of success in his fight versus Zaleski was more impressive than the 2 fights Jessin Ayari's had for me. So I'm going to go with Luigi Vandermini to get this done.
Yeah, man, this is a tough fight because, like you mentioned, Ayari's last fight, a lot of people thought he got the nod. Whether he won or lost, I will say that was the best version of Ayari I've seen, man. Look, he fought Darren Till, who's a fucking top 5 fighter. It was a better performance in the Wallhead fight, in my opinion. I guess 155 is a better weight class for him. I thought he had, better head movement than usual. Like, he still fights with his hands down, but man, he actually ate the shots, the straight lefts, better than he normally would, man. Normally he'd be wobbling all over the place, doing the chicken dance. So I actually thought, win or lose, I thought Ayari was headed in the right direction. I know he actually went to ATT for that last fight, so I think if he stays focused, man, he could. Luigi, man, he's kind of a mystery to me because he did take Elizeu's back, but he is a black belt and it's like after he got off his back, he didn't let anything go on the feet, man. And I feel like Ayari's got better footwork, more volume, pushes a higher pace. It's just a matter of Ayari's chin. So I honestly think Ayari's the better fighter all around. I just don't know what to expect from Luigi because he was coming from a low level, and then he, comes into the UFC, and I mean, he did get his leg folded back. He got knocked out unconscious. Ayari, even though he gets wobbled a lot, and we've seen some of his vicious KO losses back on the local scene to that dude that Luis Taylor knocked out. I forget his name, but man, he at least he's tough, man. Like it's hard to fucking get him out of there. Like fucking like the dude's got a lot of heart. So I'm gonna go with Ayari for the win. I think this is somewhat a step down in competition for him, coming from Stevie Ray, who's got wins over Michael Johnson and he's just got a good record, and Darren Till. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Jessin Ayari.
Yeah, look, I feel you. I feel like if it goes all 3 rounds, then you got to favor Ayari. But if there's a finish, I lean towards Vandermini. And the person you're talking about is Abus Magomedov. Shout out to my boy Lewis Taylor knocking him out for the millie. Now, Shaq, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Kenney, he's 14-2, and Heili Alateng is 14-7. Currently, they got Kenney minus 325. The comeback on Heili Alateng is plus 265. Well, I mean, everybody that's been watching Half the Battle for a while knows we've been high on Kenney for a long time, even had him on the show before he was even in the UFC. And when you talk about, paying your dues, I mean, this guy beat Brandon Royval on the regional scene. Basically, his last 7 fights are all against current or former UFC level competition. But I got to give Heili Alateng a lot of credit. I mean, I know you saw that 30-second knockout he suffered against Kai Asakura where he got his jaw broken, and oftentimes that's a career-ending injury. The guy bounced back. Now he's 2-0 in the UFC, even got a fight of the night in his debut. So what do you think about this bantamweight matchup here, Shaq?
Yeah, I think it's respectable. Heile's bought himself back after a rough stretch in his career. Definitely doing his thing right now. It's just that I think Kenney's just on a different level, man. It could be a tough. I mean, I'm just not gonna overhype Haile Alateng just because he, barely beat Baccarol and barely slid past flyweight Ryan Benoit. I think he's got a good right hand, got some good takedowns, but I feel like Kenney just fight IQ wise, just competitor wise, is on a top 15 type of level. So I think Kenney's gonna come out here and Haile Alateng, if he shows up to the best of his abilities, I still see Casey out toughing him, having the better hands. He's definitely got to watch out for that right hand. And Casey has been clipped with some right hands in the past, but I just feel like at some point, man, he's going to clip Haile, who's been, knocked out in the past. I feel like he's going to clip him with a straight left or just out grapple him or, win the scrambles. And I see Kenney getting his hand raised. It could be a tough fight, but I just don't see Kenney losing to him.
Yeah, I feel you. Look, like I said, Haile Alateng has my respect. He's come a long way. He's overcome adversity. He's got that big right hand, like Shaq mentioned. But with Kenney, I mean, like you said, man, he's only lost to Merab Dvalishvili. Yeah, he got taken out 12 times, but he got up 12 times as well. And he's a guy that you have to be a certain level to beat a guy like Kenney. So I think he's going to come out here from that southpaw stance, fire off that liver kick. I think it's going to be more kick heavy on the feet just so that he doesn't have to, so he can avoid giving Haile Alateng any chance of landing that right hand. I think Casey's going to come out here throwing more kicks, then he's going to mix in the takedowns. And when he gets on top of Haile Alateng, that's when I feel like he's going to really take over the fight. So I got Kenney in this spot, and I look forward to seeing this performance. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Loma Lookboonme, she's 4-2, and Jinh Frey is 9-5. Currently, they got Loma Lookboonme minus 150. The comeback on Jinh Frey is plus 130. Shaq, it's interesting because Loma Lookboonme, look, I don't like to call fighters overrated and this and that, but when you're 4-2 in the UFC, 4-2 is a regional record. So we got to be brutal, especially when you're talking about putting money on the line. The thing here, though, is that she's fighting a fighter in Jinh Frey who, no offense, but is, kind of on the tail end of her career. So I feel like she's catching her at the right time. But do you think the experience of Jinh Frey could play a factor, or are you leaning with that Muay Thai pedigree of Loma?
Yeah, man, this is a tough fight because I do think Loma is honestly a little overrated, a little green. I mean, but who knows? Maybe she gets a lot better in between fights this time. You could definitely see that Thai style in there. But she does back up a lot, and she does get pressed against the fence a lot. And that Albu fight was kind of ugly. So Jinh Frey, honestly, man, this is what I think about this fight. I honestly feel like Jinh Frey's skill level is up to par with anywhere with Lookboonme. It's just that when you see that like spirit, the fire, I just don't really see it in Jinh Frey. Maybe because she is on the tail end. I just feel like when it's 1-1, like her last fight against Kay Hansen, when you need to stuff this takedown, even in some of her past fights, she took that KO loss to Sohee Ham. She lost to Jody Escobel back in the day. She a lot, pretty much all her fights go to split decision. So I feel like this fight there's a very high chance of going to split decision, but I just feel like Lookboonme, the age gap, these type of fights, usually trend to the younger one. And I just feel like Jinh Frey, kind of like Ashley Yoder, when it's 1-1 and it comes down, put up or shut up. I just feel like she'll fade away. So I'll go with Lookboonme by split decision. But Lookboonme, I'm interested to see how she looks because I do think she needs some work. But Jinh Frey, she's got the skills, and honestly, I do think she's better overall. But it's a heart thing, it's a mental thing. So I'll go with Loma.
No, it's funny you bring up Ashley Yoder because I was actually going to ask you if Ashley Yoder and Jinh Frey fought and it was 1-1 heading to the third round, who do you think would get that third round, Shaq?
Yeah, man, it'll be a draw.
Like we said, man, Loma Lookboonme with that 4-2 record, you got to take the right fights and you got to be really selective about who she steps in there with. But this is the right opponent. I agree with what you're saying, Jinh Frey. She might have been, she might have wanted it a little bit more back in the day, but now, she's kind of getting up there. She's moving up a weight class. She's doing the whole bit. I respect her. She's paid her dues, but I'm going to go with Loma. I think that Muay Thai background will pay dividends here because Jinh Frey is not really much of a grappler. She's more of a stand-up artist herself, so that plays into Loma's hands. And despite Jinh Frey having more experience, I actually think that Loma has been in there with a tougher lady in Angela Hill than anyone Jinh Frey's fought. So I'm going to go with Loma to also edge out a split, but at the betting window, I'd stay away. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got a matchup between Jourdain Williams, he's 9-3, and Nassourdine Imavov is 8-2. Currently, they got Jourdain Williams -135. The comeback on Nassourdine Imavov is +115. So, Shaq, I got a lot of questions about this Imavov guy because it's like this, man. They call him the Russian sniper, but he's from France. So, I want to know, was he born in Russia? Did he move to France? And if he moved to France, why would you leave one of the best up-and-coming scenes, I mean, not up-and-coming scenes, but one of the best established scenes in Russia and go to France where, like, I believe MMA was only legalized this year. So, already, if anybody knows, please let me know in the comments.
I mean, would you rather fight French guys or Russian guys on your local team?
No, I feel you on that. I mean, look, I can't argue with that, but it's like the training and just like, I feel you on the opponents.
Would you rather fight Russian guys or French guys?
I'd rather fight French guys, but I'd rather train with Russian guys. So I really want to know what the deal is, why this guy moved to France, and he called himself the Russian sniper. So from now on, I'm gonna call him the French sniper. But that being said, man, I think he's pretty good. I think he earned his UFC opportunity. I think he's an opportunistic counter fighter. Slightly a bit on the slower side, a little bit hittable, but I mean, he's been putting dudes down. Definitely deserves his UFC opportunity, no questions asked. So I like watching the guy fight. And Jourdain Williams, he's a guy I got a lot of respect for, man, because obviously you already know, not only has he paid his dues just fighting wise, but he's paid his dues in life. I mean, the guy is a type 1 diabetic, so right away, he's weighing in at like 181 for his Contender Series fight. He weighed in today at 182 for this fight. So he's already going to be a smaller middleweight. He can't cut the weight. But interestingly enough, in this matchup, Imavov is also moving up from welterweight. So it's two welterweights fighting at middleweight. So it's a really interesting fight. I'm going to slightly lean with Jourdain Williams here, man. I think he's kind of like the bigger guy, the more powerful guy, and I think that he'll push harder. But I respect Imavov. I think he's very good, definitely earned his opportunity, but I'm going to slightly lean with Jourdain Williams. And for the record, that fight against Ramazan Kuramagomedov was not a robbery, so I don't know what the hell people are talking about. But that being said, I still got Jourdain Williams to get this done.
Yeah, man, Jourdain Williams is a legit man because I actually watched that Kuramagomedov fight and definitely not a robbery. I mean, I thought Kuramagomedov definitely won the second. First, I thought Williams won, and the third, man, it could have went either way. But I honestly thought Williams edged it. I mean, he hurt Ramazan, dropped him twice. So, Jourdain Williams is legit. If you can go to, push Ramazan like that, and Ramazan's probably going to be in some promotion here very soon. So, he's very skilled. Nassourdine, man, I was impressed, man. The footwork was on point. He definitely fights with his hands down a little bit. He kind of reminds me of what's that, like when he gets tired, I feel like he can get really sloppy with his defense and, as the fight progresses. So I see Williams being able to take advantage, but Williams is also kind of a slow starter, man. Like there's a chance Imadaev could slip something and crack him. and possibly get him out of there early. But yeah, I think Williams' MMA boxing is super underrated. I feel like he's actually the better of the grappling as well. He trains with Dave Terrell and them, so only the hardcores know about Dave Terrell. You know what I'm saying? So I think that Jordan Williams is gonna get better as the fight progresses. Needs to be careful very early because how do you say his last name?
Imavov.
Imavov. I think he's got some very good footwork, some very good counters, and he's dangerous. So definitely a UFC caliber fighter. Like when I was watching him, I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty good. So he kind of, or what's that dude that fought Razak?
Munir Lazez.
Yeah, like that type of level guy. So I wouldn't be shocked if he got the win, but I'm gonna go with Jordan Williams to edge it out and kind of a comeback style type of victory.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Charles Air Jourdain, he's 10-3, and Joshua Culibao is 8-1. Currently, they got Charles Jourdain minus 450. The comeback on Josh Culibao is plus 360. So, I mean, the line is kind of wide, but they opened him minus 365. So Vegas still thinks that, Jourdain is going to roll here. I'll say this, man. I think Culibao is going to look better in this fight than he did in his debut, just because he's dropping to his natural weight class at featherweight. Also, he's not fighting. He had to fight the tallest man in the lightweight division in his debut. It was just a really tough matchup for him, man. But here against Air Jourdain, it's more of an even playing field. He's in his right weight class. They had full camps, both of them, so it's a great fight. But I got to favor Jourdain as well, man. I feel like he's been in there with higher level competition, and I like the kid a lot, man. I feel like all he's got to do is just tighten up a couple things in his game, a little bit more urgency on the get-ups, and I think he'll be good to go. He's got a very flashy striking style, and I think that'll work here. I think this is a fight where, he can jump off the cage, he can do his spins, he can do the whole bit, and I think he's going to come out here, either stop the kid or style on him. So I'm going to go with Air Jourdain and get it done.
Yeah, initially, man, I wasn't too high on Air Jourdain, but to be honest, after his last fight, he earned my respect, man. I know he lost, but I thought his performance was very respectable. Even Philly said he said honestly he kind of underestimated Jourdain, and he was like, damn, this dude's pretty good, And I feel like, man, he's got a good pace. He gets better as the fight progresses, the flying knees, and he's got a lot of spirit in his fighting style, man. Like you can see that he really wants it out there. He's got to work on that wrestling. His wrestling defense is a little shaky. Culibao, yeah, I definitely think he's gonna look better. And I know him and Jamie Malarkey got to be Volkanovski's punching bags for that last camp with Holloway. So he just got to train with the champ, and he's probably feeling really confident right now. You got to see what the top level of the division's like. So. It could be a closer fight, but man, I just see Jourdain taking over late in this fight. I feel like Culibao could come out, very emotional, very charged up early, just because that last one was, he got his ass whooped in his hometown, and it was not a setup fight, but a short notice, fill in last minute fight. So I feel like Jourdain's gonna take it, but Culibao, I feel like he's gonna put up a fight. When you train with the champ like that, it kind of just raises it, opens your eyes, man. So, but you got to go with Air Jourdain, man. And that shape of Air Jourdain, man, you've been seeing that on the stuff he's been posting. My boy's been hitting the weights, man. Like, I don't know, he got a new doctor or something. He probably been seeing Blachowicz' doctor, you know what I'm saying? That doctor that changed Jan Blachowicz' life a few years ago before the Devin Clark fight. I know you remember that doctor. So, man, I feel like, man, he's taking things seriously. Maybe that Philly fight upped his level. So,
yeah, I mean, Jan Blachowicz went from 2-4 in his first 6 fights to now he's 8-1 in his last 9, holding a UFC belt. Just destroyed Dominic Reyes. We like what we've been seeing. So maybe this is Air Jourdain 2.0, just like it was Jan 2.0. But yeah, I can't wait to see this fight. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between Carlos, the natural-born killer Condit, he's 30-13, and Court McGee is 19-9. Currently, they got Court McGee minus 135. The comeback on Carlos Condit is plus 115. Well, Shaq, I know for a fact that if I would have told you 5 years ago that Court McGee is a favorite over Carlos Condit, you would have laughed in my face. But here we are in 2020. Look, this is the first non-top 15 guy, current or former, that Carlos Condit fights in a long, long time. Do you think it's going to make a difference? Can the natural born killer go out on a win, or is Court McGee going to win this one?
Yeah, I mean, Carlos is falling on hard times, man. Just like all the other legends, Tyrone Woodley and Ruthless Robbie Lawler, and they're all on their way out. Now we're about to see Ruthless Robbie Lawler possibly take L's to Mike Perry. Oh my goodness, this is. I mean, who's Woodley gonna take a L to next? Freaking who you got between Woodley and man, give me a guy.
Eric Silva and Bellator.
Who you got between Woodley and John Fitch, bro?
Well, Fitch just retired, but nah. Fitch would outwork him, right?
Yeah, like straight up. But yeah, so I feel like Carlos Condit falls in that group, and he kind of has had some similar issues like outside of the cage that like some of the guys I just mentioned, and I feel like a lot of that can take a toll on you in the cage, and he's lost his last 5 fights, and it hasn't been getting better, Dan. But hey, on the bright side for him, he's fighting a guy that lost to Ben Saunders a few years ago. And when you lose a fight to Ben Saunders in 2017, 18, I mean, bro, like that, enough said. So I feel like both guys are on their way out. Court obviously fights with a little more spirit. He can push more of a pace. He's got the takedowns. Carlos is unwilling to fight hard in the clinch and for the takedowns. He just, would rather play submission and get arm bars off his back. I feel like Court, really doesn't put himself in those type of spots. So I understand why McGee's the favorite. I mean, look, he's still, competing with Diego Lima, who's a young guy. I mean, at this point, I feel like it's safe to say, imagine what Diego Lima would do if he put his hands on Carlos Condit. I mean, look, Carlos Condit, like, it's like he's trying to use that 2010, 2008, 2007 WEC, roll around on my back for arm bars against John Alessio or something. You know what I'm saying? And I'll still be able to get him. Like, bro, you gotta be a little smarter. You gotta fight for position. And then you look at his fight with Alex Cowboy Oliveira. I mean, look, Alex Cowboy Oliveira pulled his stun. He gave you his back, and I feel like the old Carlos Condit would have, ended that out. And man, when's the last time Carlos Condit won a fight, man?
Thiago Alves, long ass time ago.
They weren't even wearing Reebok shorts back then.
Facts.
And it's like, it's just like Court McGee, man. He is kind of a punching bag. Pretty much if you stay in there, you're gonna touch this guy. But man, I feel like Court's just got more fight in him. From a betting perspective, this is a stay away fight for me, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, should Carlos be a favorite to a non, top even 30 guy? So, but I just feel like Court wants it more. He'll hustle more and probably edge it out late. And Carlos doesn't have no fight in him, man. Like, he's got some good flashy little techniques, teeps and little jumpies, but now he's so old, it just looks sad, to be honest, man. And it's like the Magny fight. I know Magny makes a lot of these dudes look like, weathered and old, so I wouldn't blame him there. But that Chiesa fight, it was just like, all right, man, like he kind of looked like he just smoked a blunt or something backstage. Like, it was like, does he even care? Like, so at least Court, I know, will fight, man, win or lose. So I'll go with Court.
Look, this is an interesting fight, because at first I was like, oh, I get to fade Carlos Condit in 2020. But then when I watched the tape on Court McGee, I was like, fuck, like he's kind of old too. I know Carlos has lost 5 in a row. I mean, Court's lost 4 out of his last 5, and not a single one of those losses was versus a top 30 guy. Now, I know someone's going to write in the comments, what about Sean Brady? He's a top 15 guy. Like, guys, I like Sean Brady too. I think Sean Brady one day can be a top 15 guy. But right now, beating Christian Aguilera does not make you a top 15 guy. No disrespect to Brady. I think he's going to prove himself down the line. And another thing about that fight, because people will bring up the strike counts, and allegedly Court McGee landed 100+ significant strikes against Sean Brady. Whoever was counting those numbers, I want to smoke what you're smoking, because Court McGee did not land 100+ significant strikes against Sean Brady. And to take it a step further, Sean Brady is known for his grinding abilities. Sean Brady was out there dropping Court McGee, so I don't want to hear any of this bullshit about how he looked against Sean Brady. I thought he got whooped personally. But that being said, man, so again, I looked into this fight thinking like, hey, let's fade Carlos Condit. And look, Court McGee might still win this fight, because as you like to say, Shaq, these things don't get better, these things get worse. You want to bring up the BJ Penn example. We could say, oh, he only lost to Nick Diaz and Rory and all these guys. Then he fights Dennis Seaver and Clay Guida and loses to them too. So I get it. You're probably right. But man, I heard these interviews with Court McGee talking about how like he was so scared of training during COVID that his main drilling partner for this entire camp was his 13-year-old son that weighs 150 pounds. And it was only during the last 2 weeks of this camp that, he trained with like Ramsey Nijum and this and that. But it's like, dude, like he didn't do this camp at Factory X. He didn't do this camp at the Pit with John Hackleman. So when you fight a former champion, washed up or not, that's a huge opportunity, and you got to get the best training possible. And I mean, I feel like Court like doesn't really give a shit either. Whereas I know Condit has been at the ranch with Cowboy, with all these young guys. At least I know he's been training hard. So it's one of these things where now a stat that favors McGee is that I heard he's actually attempted 115 takedowns in his UFC career. So it would really benefit him here to be relentless with the takedown attempts, because you and I both know Carlos can't stuff a takedown. He couldn't do it in his prime, and he sure as hell can't do it now, that he's a little bit, washed up. So it's one of those things where I think Court should come out here and wrestle, but man, it's just two old guys going at it. Vegas slightly favored Condit on the open, so I don't know, man. I think Condit might actually, this is the one fight Condit can win. Ben Saunders beat this guy, so I'm going to go with Carlos Condit via split decision. I hope he puts his gloves down in the center of that octagon and retires. But as you know, Shaq, that's not going to happen. So let's just enjoy this fight. Hopefully he wins and then decides to put it, to say goodbye. But they never know when to say when, Shaq. So unfortunately, it's not going to be that feel-good story. But I'll roll with Carlos Condit slightly to edge a decision. Because, like, even though he's been losing to these top 15 guys and he hasn't looked the same, I mean, my jiu-jitsu coach said it best. He said after the Robbie Lawler fight that Carlos Condit kind of lost his mojo, but at least he's had like some moments. Like he took Alex Cowboy's back. I max bet Alex Cowboy and had to sweat those moments when he took Alex Cowboy's back. So he's had slight moments. I think against McGee, he might be able to capitalize. Not confident. I'll say Carlos by split decision. Now, next up in the middleweight division, we got the UFC debut of Dusko Tudorovic. He's 9-0, and he's taking on Dequan Townsend, who's 21-11. Currently, they got Dusko Tudorovic minus 340. The comeback on Dequan Townsend is plus 280. So Dequan's 3 UFC fights have all been at 205. Now he's dropping to 185, so he's dropping 20 pounds. So he's going to be in a little better shape here. The thing is, man, when you talk about the big criticism for Dequan, it's always been, the takedown defense and the get-up. His get-up game is not the best, and I don't think dropping a weight class is going to make a difference, because I've seen him at 185 on the regionals. I've seen him at 170 on the regionals, and there was no difference at 70, 85, or 205. So that being said, I like this kid Dusko Tudorovic a lot. Oftentimes I'm kind of sketched out by kids that have had less than 10 pro fights, but like, when you talk about this guy's regional experience, I mean, he knocked out Michel Pereira in the first round. Like, when you talk about beating a guy like Michel Pereira, you think that, you got to clinch him up against the fence. You got to take him down, avoid the striking at all costs. He was out here sleeping Michel Pereira in the first round. So that's a great sign. And then on his Contender Series fight, when you want to test the kind of heart that an up-and-coming prospect has, how about you stuff every single takedown that they have, man? And, not only did he get every single takedown stuff, but he didn't show any sign of being discouraged whatsoever. He kept pushing forward the entire time. And then he also got his mouthpiece knocked out, and he still kept pushing forward. So this kid, Dusko Tudorovic, is a hustler. He's a gamer. He's a go-getter. He wants it. And I think he's going to come out here and will himself to victory on Saturday night, Shaq.
Yeah, man. I feel like you're 100% right, man. I feel like this is honestly somewhat of a no-brainer. I mean, look, Dequan Townsend, I feel like people are overrating his striking. I mean, I've seen him fight at 185 in the UFC before. He fought Bavon Lewis at 185 pounds, and he couldn't get out of the clinch. And he got outworked there. And clearly, we saw Dusko Todorovic. Honestly, in my opinion, had one of his worser performances on the Contender Series. First fight out of Europe. Usually fighting in Serbia. I mean, that's a long flight for a young guy like him for his first time, and I feel like that travel probably affected him. Kind of like you remember when Crute fought on Contender Series and he looked sloppy. A lot of those guys look sloppy when they make them big flights over here. So I feel like he's gonna look a lot better here. And the only criticism I have with Dusko is he kind of fights with his hands down, and that's it. But as far as this fight with Dequan, he is for sure gonna outwork him, out hustle him, press him against that fence, be in the clinch. Dequan Townsend can't get out the clinch, and he gets so tired that it affects his striking and it gets sloppy. And I feel like Dusko Todorovic could land some high kicks on him and just work him and outpace him. Dusko Todorovic, I feel like, has a bright future. I know a lot of people honestly think he's overrated because, look, the Contender Series performance wasn't the best. I agree. But when you knock out a guy like Michel Pereira on your local scene, and he's honestly beat like Popek and some other respectable dudes, like, I feel like Dusko Todorovic has a bright future, and I feel like he is going to perform like he's lined. I feel like he's going to win every single round, possibly a 10-8 in there. So, yeah, I'll go with Dusko.
Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Kyler Phillips, he's 7-1, and Cameron Else is 10-4. Currently, they got Kyler Phillips minus 470. The comeback on Cameron Else is plus 375. So I'm just going to be quick with this one, man. I know Cameron Else officially has more fights than Kyler Phillips, but dude, Kyler Phillips is actually the more experienced guy despite having less fights. I mean, he's been in there on The Ultimate Fighter, on Contender Series, in the UFC. And when you talk about a transformation, like, dude, like, Kyler Phillips has evolved his game so much. Like, I always thought he was just like, oh, this average karate guy, this and that. But, like, dude, that UFC debut, you take note of a performance like that, man. And he's training with the right people. He's in there with Kenney and all those guys. Like, I like this kid a lot. He's a very bright prospect. And with Cameron Else, it's interesting because like 7 years ago, he submitted Paddy Pimblett. He beat Connor's teammate Dylan Tuke. But ever since then, he's literally, when I say he's been fighting bottom of the barrel, Shaq, he's been, like, when you look up the records of these guys he's been fighting, it's like, oh my God, like an 0-0 guy, like his last fight or some shit. Like 0-10 guys. Like, you can't believe the competition he's fighting. But the credit I'll give him is he's from the UK, and he actually moved to the United States to get some better training. So at least that's the sign of someone that wants to improve their game and wants to take this seriously. But, like, dude, his regional scene, when I talk about his regional scene, he was out here knocking out guys with rash guards. You already know the deal. Unless your name is Brad Riddell, that's a huge red flag when you're out here beating guys with rash guards. So I think the line is justified. I think Kyler Phillips comes out here, styles on the kid. I got Kyler Phillips for the win.
So you're saying if you fight a guy with shoes on that it's not a real win? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I feel like yeah, man, Kyler Phillips, man. Damn, he impressed me that last fight against Gabriel Silva, man. I thought Silva was honestly going to take it, but man, I thought it was a completely different dude than what I remember from Kyler Phillips. I thought, Phillips on The Ultimate Fighter, was dynamic, but he would gas out, as the fight progresses. He was used to getting those first round finishes. Granted, Gabriel Silva, is a Silva brother. And Dan, what are the Silva brothers always known for?
Gassing out after the first round.
So maybe that's what happened. So we'll see. But nah, man, I feel like Kyler Phillips, man, that camp, I know a lot of people left the lab, but man, they still got a nice little bantamweight team, man. They got Bautista, they got Phillips, Kenney, man. That's a nice little three. So I feel like he's getting good work. I feel like Cameron Else is probably in trouble, man. He's probably gonna get overwhelmed and not to mention Kyler Phillips, he is a serious jiu-jitsu guy as well. So yeah, I see Kyler Phillips rolling here.
Next up in the featured bout, we got the former champion Germaine Randamie. She's 9-4, and the former Ultimate Fighter winner Julianna Pena is 9-3. Currently, they got Germaine Randamie minus 150. The comeback on Julianna Pena is plus 130. Shaq, I mean, we know the deal here. Pure striker versus grappler. I'm going to be shocked if Julianna Pena gets a standing knockout, just like I'm going to be shocked if Germaine Randamie is out here shooting takedowns. So, What do you think, man? I mean, you think Julianna Pena can get this one to the mat or not?
Yeah, man, I feel like honestly this is a good matchup. Obviously, GDR number one coming off the title fight. This is that dreaded off the title fight spot. Julianna Pena was able to pick up the win against Montano her last fight. Yeah, I'm gonna just be straight up on this one, man. I feel like this is another typical GDR fight. You know, GDR, you stuff the takedown, you win, plain and simple. I mean, whether she wants to keep her back on the fence and use the fence. But honestly, man, I feel like Julianna Pena has diminished significantly. I feel like maybe 3, 4 years ago, maybe she'd be able to get this one. I feel like she was a little more intense. Julianna, I actually used to be a big fan of hers back in the day because she would talk a lot of shit and, she would go out there and, but like honestly, when you look back, she only fought like three times. I had injuries back then too. Like she fought Duty Ava, was able to fully mount her. Jessica I actually bet on her in that fight, and the Katz and Gano fight. And honestly, man, I feel like all of her fights are somewhat ugly. I feel like in the middle of the cage when she shoots, she gets reversed a lot. That happened in the Montano fight more than once, more than twice. And Nico Montano is, I mean, a joke. I mean, like Nico Montano, honestly, I'm not sure if she belongs in the UFC. Like, I feel like Germaine Randamie is like the gaps between her and these girls are like not even close, man. We're talking like she knocked out Aspen Ladd, who's like top 5 in 16 seconds. Like I feel like Julianna Pena looked really sloppy her last fight. Got reversed. She was able to get some takedowns, but Nico Montano doesn't have the takedown defense of Germaine Randamie. And speaking of that last fight with Nunes, I know a lot of people are, saying Germaine's delusional. And, I feel like, yeah, she might have used the wrong word, exposed, but I feel like I get what she's referring to. I feel like what she's saying is, I mean, look at Amanda Nunes's last few fights. I mean, they've, been fucking, I mean, look, her fight with Germaine was dominant too, but the other ones in specific, like Felicia Spencer, Felicia Spencer didn't even come close to winning a round. Chris Cyborg didn't even come close to winning a round. Raquel Pennington didn't even come close to winning a round. Misha Tate didn't even come close to winning a round. Ronda Rousey didn't even come close to winning a round. Germaine Randamie, I mean, there was some 10-8 rounds for Nunes, but she actually won a round. So I feel like that's what she's referring to. Like she's saying, like I gave her at least like somewhat of a struggle. Like I mean, it wasn't like Nunes was out here, throwing spinning head kicks in the 4th and 5th round. She was ankle diving. I mean, I feel like it's honestly. I don't feel like the comments were that outrageous. I feel like Julianna Pena's comments this week have been a little more outrageous. Just saying Amanda Nunes hasn't fought anyone like her, and when she fights wrestlers, she gasses out. I'm like, oh my goodness, sweetheart, just stop it. You know what I'm saying? Because you know what would happen if Amanda Nunes got her hands on Julianna Pena? The fight would be over in less than a round. We know what would happen there. So I feel like Germaine Randamie is going to come out here and possibly knock out Julianna Pena. I see a lot of openings on the feet. And I just don't think that Julianna Pena's wrestling is as good as it's being hyped up to be. I feel like she's got some good jujitsu, but I don't feel like her entries to get for these takedowns are going to be there, man. I feel like Germaine Randamie is going to be too sharp, too savvy, and end up clipping her something big. And after she clips her with something big, I feel like Pena's going to be just diminished, just every shot will take something out of her. So I see Germaine Randamie winning this one pretty handedly.
Yeah, look, I didn't like the comments she made, but I don't really think it's going to make a difference here. I mean, I agree. She did win a round against Nunes, but it's like when you say stuff like, oh, she didn't want to fight me, like, wrestling is allowed in MMA, right? Like, you think by this point, when she's 36 years old, she'd know that this is not a Muay Thai fight at Lookboonme Stadium in Thailand, you know what I'm saying? But that being said, Julianna Pena, the stand-up difference here in technique, man, is so wide that it's like night and day to a point where, like, I feel like the striking gap is bigger than the grappling gap. I mean, like, you saw... When you want to talk about improvements, just put on the 2 Amanda Nunes fights. The first time she got taken down once, the fight was over shortly after. The second fight, she got taken down 8 times and didn't get finished, even attacked with a submission of her own at one point. So that's a step in the right direction for Germaine de Randamie. I do wish she had more urgency to get back up and didn't put her back against the fence as much, but against Julianna Pena still got to close the distance, man. And there's a stat I like that, 90% of fights hit the mat, but 100% of fights start standing. And for Julianna Pena to close this distance with that horrendous stand-up, no disrespect, I like Julianna, but let's just call it how it is. Her stand-up technique is ugly to watch, but if I were to bet Germaine, I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like I wouldn't be worried if Julianna got on top of her. But that being said, man, she's going to get clipped with something coming in here. So I'm going to roll with Germaine de Randamie via knockout in this spot. Kind of reminds me of the Aspen Ladd fight. Like, I don't necessarily think it's going to be, a 16-second knockout. I mean, I could see Germaine knocking her out in the first exchange. Don't get me wrong. It's just, it's one of those situations where if Julianna gets on top of her, you're going to be worried. But if that doesn't happen, Germaine is not just going to roll here. I think she's going to roll emphatically. The only thing I got to say is just pull the trigger and you win this fight, Germaine. That's all it comes down to. I hate it when the strikers don't pull the trigger, let alone can't get up from bottom. But pull the trigger, you win this fight easily. I got Germaine de Randamie for the win. Co-main event of the evening in the heavyweight division. We got Yorgan de Castro, he's 6-1, and Carlos Felipe is 8-1. Currently, they got Yorgan de Castro minus 240. The comeback on Carlos Felipe is plus 200. Look, I'm a fan of Yorgan de Castro. He cashed for me against Justin Tafa at plus 110. And I felt like those first 3 minutes against Greg Hardy, he was throwing some heat. But, man, he stopped throwing after those first 3 minutes. And when you talk about minus 240, minus 260, minus 300, I need insurance that he can go 3 rounds hard. And I don't have that here. So I can't rely on a first-round KO at this price. If he was minus 110, if it was a pick'em, okay, different story. Dog odds, different story. But close to minus 300 when I have no proof that he can go past the 2-minute mark, fuck that shit, dude. And both these guys have had less than 10 pro fights. They're going to brawl. I mean, it's a tough one for me to call. I think it's a dog or pass situation for sure. I mean, Carlos Felipe, he's a Brazilian brawler. But then again, when you lose to Sergey Spivak, no disrespect, that's a red flag for me too. So I really don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to slightly lean with Yorgan de Castro. I feel like he kicks like a mule. He hits hard. Hopefully he learned from that Greg Hardy fight, can come back better. But, dude, this is a dog or pass situation at the betting window. But I'll pick Yorgan de Castro as my pick.
See, man, I feel like there were some good things you said, but there's some things I disagree. I feel like, honestly, him fighting, I feel like losing to Spivak was honestly respectable. Spivak fucking finished Tuivasa, who beat Arlovsky, who fucking beat, a bunch of people. You know what I'm saying? I feel
Who
like
beat Werdum.
you know what I'm saying? So I honestly feel like Carlos Felipe, I feel like Spivak's honestly respectable. At least like he's fought, bro. Spivak's had to fight Harris, Tabura, fucking Tuivasa, like right out the gates, bro. Like Spivak, he might, be a little shaky in the beginning, but bro, keep an eye out for Spivak, because I honestly thought he looked good in that Felipe fight, popped him with the jab. I honestly thought it was 30-26. I don't know how it was at a majority decision. That was kind of weird, but I feel like Felipe he's a banger. His shots are a little inaccurate, but De Castro, man, going into the Greg Hardy fight, I said I had a suspicion that if he can't get the early knockout, that he's gonna gas out, and I feel like that's exactly what happened, man. I feel like he is a big belly guy, and he's kind of a low kick overhand right guy. Vicious low kicks, and I feel like the low kicks are there in this Felipe fight. Felipe is more of a boxer. It's just that, like you said, man, if this fight progresses, Felipe at least showed me he was swinging the entire time. Spivak had to pick him apart with the jab and stay sharp. But I feel like, this is a dog or pass situation with these big boys swinging in there. Anybody could go down, and I do feel like Yorgan de Castro is somewhat overrated. But at the same time, I feel like Carlos Felipe's biggest issue is he's very emotional. He talks a lot in there while he should be a little bit more focused. As you can see, they had a very intense stare down earlier today. And Carlos Felipe, he has been running his mouth saying a lot of things about Yorgan. So, he can't get too emotional. You got to stop talking in there and just fight. But I'm gonna go with Yorgan de Castro. I'm not very confident though, to be honest, man. I do feel like there's some value on Carlos. What's his nickname? Big Boy. Um, but I feel like the Castro man, he needs to throw because the Greg Hardy fight, like you said, he didn't even throw. I mean, I was counting minutes where he didn't even throw a punch. So I was like, man, is this guy gonna throw? So we'll see.
Main event of the evening in the bantamweight division, we got the former champion Holly Holm. She's 13-5, and Irene Aldana is 12-5. Currently, they got Holly Holm -120. The comeback on Irene Aldana is +100. So to give Holly Holm a little bit of credit, you know, she's got the reputation of being the former pro boxer, but she won the UFC title with a head kick. You saw her put on a takedown clinic against Megan Anderson, and you saw her win a fight with 15 minutes in the clinch against Raquel Pennington. So I feel like Holly Holm is decently well-rounded here. And Irene Aldana, you know, I know she's had some shaky moments, but I feel like now she's finally paid her dues, and she's at a point where she can compete with a former champion. Now, with Irene Aldana, she throws twice the output as Holly Holm, but she also gets hit twice as much as Holly Holm. So the one thing with Irene Aldana, she's just got to focus on not being so hittable. And if she does that, man, I feel like she's going to pop the jab. And as fights start to carry on, she does start to get better, even though it was 1-1 in that Raquel Pennington fight. And I know you remember that fucking calf slicer attempt that cost her that fight. I couldn't believe that shit. But she's got 2 extra rounds to work with here. She's got 5 rounds. And hopefully she learned from that experience. If she learned from that experience, I think she's got all the tools to come out here and win. And also, she's not slight chalk here. She's the underdog here. And you got to take note of that knockout against Ketlen Vieira. You know, Ketlen's undefeated at the time, and you don't often see one-punch knockouts in this division. So I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but at least like that's a step in the right direction to come back from the loss and get a first-round knockout. I mean, I know she fought Vanessa Mello in between there, but we don't even got to talk about that. But yeah, so Irene is trending upwards right now. I feel like Holly's kind of, you know, slowing down a little bit. I respect Holly, and, you know, she's definitely a veteran, but I'm going to say Irene Aldana wins this decision by just slightly having more output than Holly Holm, and then she's going to have to fight Amanda the Goat Lioness Nunes.
Yeah, and then it's good luck with that, you know. You know, good luck finding Amanda. That's usually a trip to the hospital. So yeah, man, I feel like yeah, man, this is a good fight because Holm, man, let's just be honest here. Her fighting style at this point in her career is more of a staller. You know, she likes to hug you on that fence, and that's a good aspect of the game. Look, it's boring, but the shit works, man. You know, if a dude can't get out the clinch, he can't get out the clinch. You know, uh, and that's what Raquel Pennington. You know, I mean, look, I feel like Aldana honestly is one of the more positive people. She honestly reminds me a lot of like a Drew Dober, like very positive, had some shaky moments, you know, lost to Leslie Smith, lost to Chukagian out the gates, but was able to rebound and pick up some nice wins and to knock out Vieira, who was able to bounce back in her last fight this past weekend. I mean, that was very impressive because Vieira was, you know, #1 contender or right there. So I feel like Holly Holman is still tough to beat, and like you said, Aldana lands more. But man, you can't, you know, forget about those sounds that Holly makes, man. I mean, those sounds add like an extra, you know, extra 2 shots to the judges. The judges think that like 4 shots landed, but really like none landed, even though like
Especially with no crowd there.
it's like, oh my god, she didn't really land, guys. Like, you know, oh, you're muted.
I said especially with no crowd there.
Yeah, man. It's like I feel like you're right, man. At least Aldana's the underdog, and she's the one that's been leveling up. And I feel like, you know, super positive people like that, they finally get rewarded, like, you know, Vera or Dober. Like, you know, the Raquel Pennington fight is definitely frustrating. You know, her going for that calf slicer in a crunch time like that, and the fact that we thought she would have more of a stand up edge in that fight. But you know, Aldana is a little chinny. You know, she has been dropped before, and you know, but man, that Vieira performance, the counter, the speed, the power, I was like, damn, that shit. I was like, she throwing that heat, man. Like, I was very impressed. I know a lot of people say that Vieira was winning that round and she just got caught, but I disagree, man. I feel like Aldana was looking good the entire time. Vieira's, you know, I mean, Vieira's gonna be up there at the top, so I feel like I'm gonna go with Aldana as well. I can't necessarily say how because Holly Holm is also a little chinny herself. You know, she has been stopped as well. And Holly Holm, man, if she thinks she's gonna come out here with that stalling game plan, and Winkle John and Greg Jackson can fool the judges, from outside of the cage. You know how they like to do it. I mean, it's a Heili fight. They, like I said, when she fought Pennington, for every two shots Pennington lands, Heile's already made like 4 or 5 sounds. So it's like, oh god, we already can see where this is going. So I do have some hesitancy, uh, betting wise, just because I do feel like there's a chance Irene could get weaseled like she's been weaseled in the past, by Chukagian and Raquel Pennington. Lost very close decisions there, where fights where a lot of people think she won. So it wouldn't shock me if Holly won another close fight, but I'm gonna go with Irene, man. I feel like she's the younger, hungrier fighter here, more power on the feet. I'm really interested to see if she can get out that clinch, man. Holly's looking to stall, but I'll go with Irene.
Yeah, man, I'm curious to see if the tennis sounds are going to be an effective strategy in a fight like this, especially with the output of Irene. So I can't wait to find out. Normally we talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch, but I'm running low on studio time, so we got to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you very much to all our fans for checking out this very special edition of Half the Battle. Make sure y'all follow Shaq at MMA Genius 05 or Shaq BFP on Twitter. On Instagram. Follow me at Best Fight Picks on Twitter. You can go to bestfightpicks.com for the plays. Subscribe to Half the Battle on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, Spotify, all the places where we are available. We'll be back next week to break down the next card, which is Marlon Moraes versus Corey Sandhagen. I know my boy Shaq's been looking forward to that fight for a very, very long time. And then the following week is Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie, which is also a hell of a fight. So can't wait for all that. And then also, I got some written work and some other video content at Line Movement, so make sure y'all check that out. Some cool stuff. So thank you very much to all the fans. We truly appreciate it. And until the next time, let's cash these bets.